Taylor Swift has endorsed Kamala Harris for president moments after the end of Tuesday night's presidential debate against Donald Trump. The pop star made her announcement in an Instagram post signed as Childless Cat Lady, and that's a reference to comments by Trump's running mate J.D. Vance. Her post, breaking her silence on the 2024 vote, explained, and I quote, "I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them," end quote. Swift, who also backed Democratic President Joe Biden in 2020, went on to call Harris a steady-handed, gifted leader. She added, "I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we're led by calm and not chaos." Swift's text was accompanied by a photo of her with a cat. Her childless cat lady comment was a nod to remarks made in 2021 by Vance, who is Trump's candidate for vice president. End quote. The singer said she was in part motivated to share her voting decision with the public after an AI image of her falsely endorsing Trump was posted on his website.
For all that transpired during that presidential debate in Pennsylvania, the significance of it all and how all of that may forge the path to the November 5 election. Now, we're being joined by Dr. Sam Amadi, director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Good afternoon, Dr. Amadi. Nice to see you here again. Overall, I would love to know your assessment of Kamala Harris's performance in this debate, especially compared to, well, we don't have too much to compare it to for her past debates.
Well, I think she came out good. I mean, before now, the uncertainty, we don't know who she was, but of course we know she's been a senator, attorney general, prosecutor, and now vice president, and now nominee. So, but people didn't quite know how to assess her in a formal debate. And of course, she's not been doing interviews as much. And then that was the sense. But I think she crossed the Rubicon first. She came out well, more coherent than Trump, clearly, had more specific information to give, and of course did what back home Tinubu didn't do in 2023. Tinubu said I was going to continue where Buhari stopped, but she wisely said, look, created the impression that this is me, this is a change, let's move on, and move on from Trump, move on from Biden, the undertone. So clearly tried to say, find a way not to defend the policies that on economy, on migration, where most Americans probably scored this government, her administration low. I think her performance showed somebody who had good grooming and who played to the script very well, drew Trump out, kind of triggered him and tried to type. Trump couldn't resist a fight, and he had to, in some cases, in fact, deepen the point she wanted to make. So she came out well. I mean, people were also worried that about 60% of those who wanted to watch wanted to know about her compared to 20% for Trump. So Trump is a known factor. She was unknown. It could be dangerous. She could slip down. It could be very advantageous. She could, ramp it up. But at the end of the day, I think that this is not a done deal. She came out well. She avoided. Nobody could say she will slip down because of this debate. She won on many grounds, even though some analysis could put it more like small victory. Some could say wipeout. But for me, she didn't quite change the perception of economy. I mean, in terms of which people say, okay, maybe the policies that we care about, she didn't quite flip it to show that maybe she's going to have different policy that will be difficult to do considering who she is and the administration she managed. But she came out as somebody clearly more technical, coherent, like a prosecutor, marshaled evidence. And sometimes those evidence might not be totally factual. I mean, Trump is the guy who would lie often, but I also saw some of those lies and probably obfuscation around issues. So I think she came out well, and she now will be in some kind of good spirit to try to go back to background states and tie up the knots. Yeah.
All right, and I want to quickly look at some of the reactions from American papers today. Wall Street Journal summarized the highlights of the debate, of course, being abortion, economy, and migration. New York Post came out with a bold headline that said "Cambush," and this is alluding to how Donald Trump has accused ABC of not fact-checking Kamala Harris, and also felt that it was an uneven playing field. And then, of course, lastly, Washington Post wrote that Harris put Trump on the defensive. That's something you've already touched on. Now, when you look at all of this, it all comes back to the point that you made that this debate centered around issues in the past. My question to you is, where do you think this election will be won? Will it be won on defending past issues and past policies, or will it be won in the hope of what one has to offer in the future?
I think it will won on the future if you can explain away the past. That's a problem. I mean, the impression, Harris appears adaptive, and in some language that could be hypocritical, that could be, false, but basically trying to shape up, and of course, Senator Bernie Sanders said that, look, she has to be pragmatic to win, but she is far away from the center in real sense. So this debate sets a perception. Okay, if people know she's stable, better than Trump, she's younger, agile, looks nice on television, smart to know how to manipulate some of the things Trump says to get Trump in. So smart in that sense. So likable factor plays in now. But going forward, if you look at the polls, even though they're not always all reliable. But what is clear is that Americans are concerned about the economy, the migration, of course, crime and security, but those could be shaped to narrative. But the real fact here is how she can create substance in the sense that, look, I'm going to be different from Biden in terms of this policy. Can she craft a coherent policy different from Biden with clear, supportive evidence that those policies will drive the economy different? That will help her to make the case. So I see the election determined by three factors here now. There are many voters who are worried about personality, chaos, what Democrats have said about Trump, and the pushback is that in the last 4 years, Trump governed far more stable, or his 4 years rather, he governed far more stable than his rhetoric. So if you're somebody who is more rational, I saw one of the CNN undecided voter who made a great point. And she said, look, I sat in this hall, listened to these guys, and I considered my last 4 years under Trump and now, and I think I was better off. So I'll go with Trump. So if you scale off the rhetoric and say, does he govern more stable than he talks, then you might not be swayed by that chaos narrative. That's one aspect. The second aspect is what happens between now, 56 days or 55 days in American politics is too long. What happens with migration, the crime, the economy? I think improvement is happening. Will it be sufficient enough to show that policies of the last 4 years or last 3.5 years are working? That would shape the final vote. And again, culture issues die hard in the U.S. So people might try to appear too rational. But at the end of the day, there are going to be questions around, for example, one of the analysts on CNN talked about the cat and the geese issue, how will it rehabilitate with Haitians and some of the battleground states in Florida and elsewhere. Would that, move those who are cultural Republicans to say, away with Trump? Or will it be, waved away? So we know Trump, he talks trash, but that guy, gets it right on issues about migration, on issues that concerns us, about the world, about foreign policy. Or would they say, this is trash, plus issue of abortion? So these cultural issues are going to play big. But then the question here is we're looking at probably less than 20% in many places of persons who can swing or who have not made up their mind. So I think that these debates, going forward, the election will be decided on the issue of economy, migration, and the culture issue. Depending, of course, there are constituencies that are given. How the election of 2020 happened with the COVID, with too many people voting before the time, and all the issues around who should vote,
Dr.
whether
Amadi.
elections, those things are not going to play much now. Yeah, so I think it will be more about this policy and less,
You did mention that
Yeah, go ahead.
earlier that Harris didn't effectively communicate her economic plan. She didn't really go deeply into policies. Instead, she focused more on using smart strategies with Trump to pretty effectively bait him. And once she'd bait him, he would get seduced into losing his temper. How did her tactics really influence the debate's outcome?
First, I think, again, Trump managed to stay a little bit calmer than Trump did against Hillary Clinton and others. But again, what it did was to push Trump to forget some of the things he should have said. For example, the issue around Afghanistan, the deal that Trump negotiated. So once he started blackmailing or blaming Trump for bad deal, for lack of attention and focus, Trump took a different way than staying back and said, look, what counts in this is not about the deal. It's about the way it was executed. It's about leaving behind these Americans. It's about loss of American soldiers and the shabby way they were left to be. So that triggering made Trump, fail the test, which is to focus on where Kamala herself is weak, because she herself said, I was in that room. So she takes responsibility for that responsibility. So Trump didn't quite match that level with the coherence required and the facts. Again, the issue around the cat and the cheese, that was a blunder. In fact, the more important one was the issue around, for example, she's not black, she says she's black. Trump's answer was very negative and bad. It's like, I don't care, give it that. But you said accept. So Trump would have focused more on what does it tell us about her character. It's not about being black. Trump would have said, look, whether you're black and you say you're blue, or you're blue, you say you're white. The key point here is not about color. We're all Americans. The issue here is, can you be trusted if you're going to adapt to political, benefit or conveniences to define yourself? That means you lack the character. So I think Trump missed those opportunities because, typical of Trump, he couldn't miss a fight. Once you attack him, he will focus on defending himself and not see the opportunity to leverage that attack to score a bigger point. I think that's where Trump, difficult to manage because Trump senses blood. He has to respond before he remembers to go back, probably to get to the details that matter. I thought he missed those opportunities to use those negative or even his own error to recreate the fact that this is not about being black or white. This is basically about whether somebody is reliable enough to be stable, or whether somebody is an opportunist who would redefine herself in different circumstances because they're politically beneficial or convenient. I think Trump needs those opportunities.
Absolutely. Dr. Sam Amadi, you echoed the words of Lindsey Graham there, who said that this was a missed opportunity for Donald Trump. Well, let's see how it all plays out when it comes down to Election Day. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution today. Very much appreciated.